Okay, so today we're doing more inking. And that's it, man. I should probably scale back here. There's quite a bit here that was inked yesterday offline. So it's looking pretty good. Where are we at? We're here. So without further ado, let's just get busy, shall we? Let's get busy. Hitting the 5 key to switch between palette entry 4 and 5, so back to 4. It's kind of convenient. Well, that's the thing you find with OpenTunes is the more you work with it, the more you discover little things that it does that are pretty smart. As I've said at other times, designed by animators for animators, it would seem. And that's often the case with software that has what might otherwise be viewed as somewhat inscrutable interfaces. The quintessential example being Blender, which everyone struggles with when they start using it because the interface is completely alien to whatever system you're used to working on, because it was originally developed to run on, I believe, the whatever flavor of Unix was on SGI machines back in the day, the late 90s. IRIX, I think, was the operating system. So, but I mean, it wasn't even a conforming interface for IRIX. It was just a roll your own interface widgets concept. In the case of OpenTunes, OpenTunes is built using a C++ platform called Qt, which is, whoops, that's too big, which is a cross-platform toolkit that makes it somewhat easier to create software that's going to run on lots of different operating systems with principally the same, interface. And I've used Qt. It is a good framework, but it still, whoops, that's wrong. It still requires a good bit of study if you want to grok the code, understand it, and possibly contribute to the development. Okay, this is a great example of what happens when you lose perspective because you're zoomed in so far. And I'm just gonna, we're kind of cheating on the sword handle. Now this is an interesting example of where, having been in a very sketchy mode when I did the pencils, and I remember doing this, I was definitely moving fast. There's a point where my pencils turn from basically rough pencils into what you would call breakdowns in comic book parlance. meaning just a couple notches north of stick figures, which you really couldn't get away with too well if there was somebody else doing the inking. But since I'm doing it myself and I kind of know A, what I had in mind, and B, how to draw the characters, it's not a big deal. I generally get away with it. But here we have an example where I was moving so fast that I got kind of sloppy on the anatomy. And frankly, this guy's neck is not not selling me at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little edit here and just kind of move this around until it feels right. That's nice that you can do that. That's better. Alright, and then up top we're going to have to glue this all together again. Probably should zoom back in. Boom. Boom. Okay, and then up here we're going to have some issues since we are at the top of the page, so to speak. We'll just go ahead and smooth that out. Not quite sure how I lost a little piece of the poor guy's ear. N key. Okay. I think I'm going to check the next. Yeah, see, he's moving in. Basically, these two guys are standing still, so I might as well just go ahead and ink this guy. Okay, we don't want any weird coincidences with where our lines line up. In other words, if the hairline began right here where the mask happens to coincide with his cheek, that would be a little weird. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit the old 5 key again. So the color red on the palette has auto paint for lines activated, which means that when I do a fill operation, the red lines will just disappear. That's what auto paint for lines is for. Traditionally, you might use it for shadows. I'm generally not using it for shadows. I'm favoring the use of it for simply for lines that I want to have disappear once the area is painted. For shadows, I'm going to put them on a separate layer. Because the whole matter of making the shadows transparent is much easier doing it that way. So, alright, S key. I guess what I want to do is something like this. I want to grab all of these guys. Yeah, that worked. Go to the next frame. Let me check something here. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. One thing that would be nice is I would like to see for the S key, the selection tool, excuse me, almost choked. I would like to see the selective option. So on the fill tool, you've got this selective. On the paint tool, you've got the option to be selective. What that does is it gives you the ability to erase or fill an area where it's only going to affect the particular palette color that you have selected. What that would allow me to do is take this frame, select everything, but if it had a selective mode, then I could grab only the ink lines and not the underlying pencil drawing, because then what happens is when I paste it in here, the pencil lines from the previous frame get I'm doing two things at once, that's why I'm talking like a complete idiot here. The pencil lines get pasted in as well as the ink lines, and so now you got two drawings over top of each other. It's just hard to see what you're doing, you know. This has got to go, and I would say this probably can be leveraged over to here. It's got to be slightly bigger because ostensibly it's moving toward you, and the angle's a little different. I'm going to go ahead and take a little liberty with the positioning just so I don't have to fight with this bit of line work here. Okay, so what you learn to do actually is you sort of learn to erase inside so that the basic drawing is still there. You can see what you had. See what I mean? And having done that, frankly, this, yeah, see, that's cool, because really the hand positioning is okay, but the positioning of the arm looks silly. So, boom. Just going to do that. Let's see if that works. It really doesn't. Yeah, I'm really improvising here because, I mean, normally it's just a lot easier if you have a sketch underneath it to make sure you get things where they're supposed to be. So that actually worked out okay. I have to say this probably needs to be a little longer. Okay, that's definitely good enough. Okay, is that like evil saying good enough? Should I ever say it's good enough? Or should I say, well, that's satisfactory, but it could always be better? Well, the reality is it could always be better. And that's why I say it's good enough. Is because there are many times when you cut your losses, so to speak, and say this is good enough. Well, why would you do that? The reason you do that is because you don't treat animation the way you treat a still drawing. Now, there might be purists out there who are going to take me to task on this point and tell me that I'm sort of chimping out and satisficing with less than stellar work and all this sort of thing. And they would basically be correct. Not because I'm lazy or don't care, but actually because I'm staying in tune with what the audience will care about. And the thing that's different about animation versus, say, a comic book or still art is the time element. In animation, some things simply go by really, really fast. And your brain does not have time to evaluate the accuracy of this or that. And I would say, pragmatically speaking, if you're an animator and you don't keep in mind those sorts of things, such that you're basically saying, I'm gonna say I know when it matters. And when it matters, I'm gonna be as meticulous as can be. But when I know that it doesn't matter, I'm gonna let it go. I think that's just good business, because frankly, why are you going to create this really meticulous rendering of imagery that may be on the screen for there, like that? That's how long it's on the screen, right? Basically. It's not exactly, but basically it all goes by really fast. So there is a point where you go, I could actually, I mean, the truth is I could do an in-between. I should do this just to demonstrate it. Let me see. Let's try this just to see how it goes. Okay, what I'm going to do is hit the B key and just add an extra frame in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to, actually, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Can't believe I'm doing this. Control C, Control V, and do the same thing here. Control C, Control V. Okay, so now here's my point. You'll appreciate this probably. Let's go to this frame, and let's go ahead and turn on. Let's put it here and turn on the onion skins before and after. Okay. Okay, so now I can see the drawing before and I can see the drawing after. Okay. See what I'm doing? I'm looking at where the lines are between drawing 1 to drawing 2, and all I'm doing is creating motion. Okay. Motion lines. We'll see how successful this is. Okay, I'm not going to go any further. I guess I should do the sword. Okay. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Now what I'm going to do, again, for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to set the start marker. Let me see what we have here. Okay, this has got a pretty good amount of action in it. As does this segment. So let's just take this down to 12 frames a second and preview it. Let's see what happens. Okay, now just to make it fair, I'm going to turn the pencil drawing off completely. Okay, yeah, so I forgot about his head, didn't I? So that's interesting. Oh, it's because his head hasn't been drawn in the second. Well, that's not fair. That doesn't count. All right, so I'm gonna go here and just I'm gonna completely cheat on this. I'll fix it later. All right, so obviously we have a problem with the line. Okay. And then I'm just going to go okay, so at 12 frames a second, it's actually too fast. Okay, now stop. Yeah, the reason this is goofered is because when I turn the sketches off, okay, so anyway, there's my point. Now if I was really going to do this, I'm going to Control C, Control V, and make this really transparent. Okay, and right here I'm going to hit the P key, and I'm going to, well, I was going to use the P key, but I guess I'm not going to use the P key. I'm going to use the fill tool, and I'm going to fill lines. Okay, that's interesting. Why is the selective option no longer available for lines? Very weird. Very weird. Was it because frame range was on? I don't know. I'm just going to check this. Okay. Yeah. So I've found that if you're going to do motion lines, you usually want them to be somewhat more transparent. So I can't say definitively that this works great, but the only way you could really say for sure would be to go Alt like that and put the ending here. So we see him go and then stop. See what I mean? So that's what I was trying to illustrate. The fact of the matter is, we just did an in-between that's nothing but a bunch of lines. And the fact is, it actually works pretty well. Now, would it be better to have proper in-betweens? Yeah, maybe. Alright. Now I'm going to suck that back up. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave that frame in there. I'm going to go ahead and plan on using it. I think it's not a bad thing at all. So now, just to get back into the groove, we need to turn our pencil lines back on. But I think that's an important thing to recognize, that sometimes you can get away with murder, and as long as the end result looks good, then it is good. And people have been using tricks like that for ever since there's been you know, cartoons, movies, whatever. Okay, so now I've kind of gotten myself in a little bit of a pickle here, because now, as you can see, palette entry 5 is no longer the red, so I'm going to have to remember to hit 6 instead of 5. Well, there are definitely worse things one could have to deal with. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and trace this, but I'm going to trace it with the red marker so that we can fill this guy in, but have his lines just disappear under the blur area, if you will. So I think that's probably okay. Maybe, oops, maybe we'll put in a little bit of a border here. I'm going to go ahead and draw this in just because I'm not sure where this border area would stop. So okay. And here we need to go back to our solid color. Get these lines filled in. I'm choosing at this point to ignore the chain I had drawn in there on the nunchucks Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Frankly, in anime, I think this is a great way to do, crazy motion. Now, one thing I could do to make this even better, by the way, is let's put in with the solid color, not the semi-transparent color. Let's put in one solid in between. We've got a line here and a line there, so oops, duh, that was dumb. Line here, therefore line there. Line here, line there, therefore line there. Right? And by the way, this might not work. This may turn out to be a bit of a bust, but it's worth a try. I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah, see, that even drives the illusion home even more. I think the only thing I could add that would make it even stronger would be the suggestion of his eyes. Other than the fact that this one's obviously too far. Now that's interesting because these eyes created a passing position inadvertently. This really underscores what Richard Williams says in his book about in-betweening. The passing position is actually what defines the character of the animation. So you can see the flaw here is that his eyes seem to be drooping downward. That's better. Okay. That may require more correction downstream, and if so, we will do so. Okay, I want this to be a little more transparent. Back to this color. Okay, so now we've got an action sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times when I have action sequences, what I'll do is I'll just make sure each individual pair of keys is working. And if they are, generally the whole thing works. Here. See? So that means we can go here, and what we have is a repeating section. So why not start with the section that we know is going to repeat, right? So hit the B key, and we'll get this drawn in so that we can just cut and paste it into the next keyframe. No point drawing it twice if we don't have to. By gum and by golly. Okay, I don't remember about her arm. Yeah, I guess her arm repeats as well, so we'll draw the arm. Okay, now there's one thing I want to check here. Yeah, I guess ostensibly her left hand is empty. It's just a fist. So we'll do that. Looks like the sword repeats as well. Don't like the... Okay, makes me wonder if... a little bit of detail there would be helpful. Gosh, I'm gonna have to zoom in. Yeah, see, if you're out too far, it's easy to miss things. Okay, S key, and I don't want to copy the head. It's kind of interesting though. It looks like, did I actually copy and... I think I did. I think I actually did a copy and paste operation on her head, and then just rotated it. I can hear the sounds of Beethoven playing in the other room. I'm sure you guys can't hear that. Okay. And the next. Okay, so what I wanted to find out, just for kicks and giggles, Control C. Now let's go Control V, and let's ask ourselves, what is it I would have done? What I would have done is go like this, and then rotate it, and la-ti-da, lo and behold, it turns out that that is what I did. Which means there's just a little bit less to draw, right? Which is, you know, I like drawing, so it's not like drawing is a problem. Ooh, that didn't work. That'll work. E. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Do we draw the ninja, or do we continue with Akari? Seems like we got some erroneous specs here. Let's go ahead and get rid of these erroneous specs. I say we continue with Akari. Okay. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now I'm going to use the red to sort of enforce some borders here. But basically, I want it to be very loose and suggestive of detail without actually drawing a lot of detail. Okay. I love this action sequence. I really do. I guess that when animation is a lot of fun is usually Obviously, the reason you animate is you want to sort of bring your concept to life, so to speak. Ooh, that's awful. Isn't that awful? That's alright. What we're going to do is we're going to erase that. That's not awful. Is it definitively awesomely amazing, like the best ever? I don't think so. But it's not too shabby. Whoops. Giving her a little bit of a muscular look there, I must say. And as you no doubt can guess, that is another example of that shot is going to go by so fast that if her shoulder... Okay, what did I just do? I just did a stupid thing. Boink. Well, it's a good example of where I think that OpenTunes used to have, maybe it's still here somewhere, but it used to have an option that let you take these panels that represent the different windows and views, and you can lock them so that it's impossible to accidentally drag the window out of its place, which is what I just did. Why that feature is no longer present, I am not sure, because more than once in earlier versions that feature kind of saved me from myself. Okay, I like that. Oh yeah, I forgot her little slipper thing. Okay, next. Hmm. Finding I like to draw in well, little bursts of like boom, boom, boom. I like it when there's a little bit of a squared off or a blocky character to it. Not sure why. Just like the way it feels, I guess. Nope, didn't like that last piece. Okay. And down here, boom, boom. I wonder what N. Yeah, this is actual size right here. Oh heck, why fight it? I'm just gonna draw it in there completely. and then hit the eraser to make way for the blade. Mm-hmm. She definitely looks like a force to be reckoned with here. Boom. Well, speaking of drawing in little bursts of straight line that of course accumulate to form apparently curved lines, there's obviously a danger since this project is fairly young in its timeline. There's a fair amount of animation and whatnot that maybe is of a slightly different style because basically my style's evolving. I think of Bill Sienkiewicz back when Bill started drawing comic books, which I guess would have been probably the late 70s. He was basically a Neil Adams clone, and he was by far the best Neil Adams clone around. And as his style developed, it moved in a really unique direction. Not saying I liked it or disliked it, but it definitely changed, and it changed considerably, which is good. He got away from the whole, I'm just going to be the best imitator of Neil Adams out there. Of course, at that point in time, Neil Adams could do no wrong. He was working for DC, I guess, doing things like Green Lantern and occasionally Batman. I think he did Deadman as well. Batman. In the 70s. So anyway, the point of the story is that there is a certain danger to changing your style in midstream, because all of a sudden it doesn't necessarily sync with what you did earlier. In this case, I don't think that's really going to be much of an issue. I think the final, once it's color corrected and the effects are added and everything's painted and blah blah blah, I think it's going to actually look pretty unified. And of course, if there's a problem, we'll simply fix it. When there's a problem, you fix it. That's all. That's what you do. Okay, now what I'm going to do is hit the 6 key so I can put some borders in here. Actually, guess that doesn't require a border. Yeah, it does. He's going to have that wrap around his neck. So I think I'm going to have to stop here soon, and today's tax day. I got to do quarterly taxes. Payroll tax, basically. One of the unpleasantries of having a corporation is corporate taxes, and payroll in particular. Boom. Boom. I'm booming. yes, sir. Yes, you are booming. Quite delightful, the booms. Okay, how stupid can I act? Just about that stupid. Yes, sirree. Looks like I definitely stretched his arm a bit to drive home the point, the action. That's fine. We're going with it. We're going with it. We're going with the whole stretched this and stretched that, and by the way, this sword is missing. Okay, now his it's definitely getting close to quitting time. Cuz I'm really moving too fast. Okay, let's erase this first of all. Let's hit the G key to get that a little bit more in shape, as it were. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, Control C. And then here, I apologize to the entire world. I just have to definitely apologize for that embarrassing bit of really crappy drawing. I should launch into another lecture about how it doesn't matter because it's all going to go by so fast. The truth is, that's true. This is going to be like, you know, that's that's what we're going to see. So, manifestly, it doesn't really matter too much, but let's not be sloppy just for the fun sake of being sloppy either, right? So, with that, you know, here I actually bent his head around to emphasize it's squash and stretch, you know, it's this classic squash and stretch. Well, Richard Williams' book, The Animator's Survival Kit, which is really the definitive tome on traditional 2D animation technique, he really makes the point in his book that there's a bit of a misplaced emphasis on squash and stretch, and that the reality is that your timing and your passing positions and blah blah blah. There's a lot of things that matter as much or more than squash and stretch in terms of making your animation look cool and alive and all the rest. And I do tend to agree with him. But at the right times, in the right places, squash and stretch can add fun and quality. Okay, yeah. So do we want to fix this or not? Let's fix it, just for the fun of it. Sometimes when things are really screwed up, what I do is just literally erase it, because the reason it's screwed up, actually, is that I'm trying to adhere too much to a preliminary drawing or a breakdown that really wasn't very well conceived, if you will. So I'm going to just see what I can do here. Okay, that's where this part in here is going to be black because they have those glove things they wear. So that means we need a border right there. So that's actually not amazing, but it's better than it was. This actually, frankly, the scale's a little wrong. Okay, so that one looks better, actually. Yeah, I mean, you've got his wrist going from here to kind of here, It's turning. It's like, what's the point of that? Again, there is no point. It goes by so fast that it's not going to matter one bit. So I'm not going to sweat that little detail. Honestly, what I think we need is I'm going to insert a frame here. Hello? I'm just curious what happens if we boom. I think maybe it won't hurt to have it. I thought going from this to this is okay. Is okay. But I think I really want to emphasize the boom, the fact that he's really getting wonked hard, right? So what happens if we go with the Matt Groening look? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Then we're back to ink. We're back to ink. Boom, boom. Oh. Yeah. So again, let's do this simple. Simple, simple, simple. Like so. Okay. What about the blade? Well, let's cheat. Let's copy the blade. Yep, that'll work. Okay. Well, and I did these drawings as more or less breakdowns because I knew at the time that this action was going to go by basically about as fast as it ever does. You know, this is a really quick passage. And actually, that kind of emphasizes again a reason to put in this frame here. I wonder. I'm going to go ahead and try this. I can always erase it if I don't like it. Okay, and what I'm going to do is take this down to nothing. I'm going like this. Okay. So my point is that I could go boom. I guess to really see what I'm doing, I should turn this back on. Okay. Boom. And then, so this goes by fast, but then boom. We could actually do a hold with a sound effect on that frame, just so the audience really gets that, boom, this guy got biffed really good. And then, so it'd be, you know, something like that, you know. I'm just making this up, but something like that. Something where the timing can be massaged in order to drive home that moment of impact. Okay. Okay, so just because I knew I had it on the clipboard. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. I actually did quite a lot of detail in this drawing, I must say. Not sure why. Probably just in the interest of keeping the quality relatively good, not getting too sloppy. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about how it plays as an animation, you know, as a finished show. Okay, I want to zoom in here. I've found that when I have a hand situation, a lot of times it helps to draw one side of the finger, because my tendency is to always make the fingers inconsistently fat or thin. You know, when I'm moving fast, I tend to make the fingers like different thicknesses, which kind of looks stupid. So, now, okay. Obviously, we're going to have to turn our eraser down a skosh in order to fine-tune this. But what I'm wondering is, what about his other leg? For that moment of impact, does it matter? Kinda, sorta. Actually, I think what would happen is, I'm just going to draw it. Okay, so if we're going to do that, and we want to have some indication there, okay, that was absolutely not right. Frankly, I don't like that one either. Okay, I think that's okay. It's not exactly perfect, but again, this is going to be going by really, really fast, and I just wanted to have a little sense of the continuity of the other leg being in there, since it would in fact be in there. Okay, so his head is being bent quite dramatically, and we've got those crazy googly eyes going on. When in doubt, exaggerate it more and see how it looks. Okay. This would actually be foreshortened a bit. And here we go with the hand, which is going to have the glovey thing. Okay, that didn't work. Sometimes the smoothing actually boogers you up a little bit if you're trying to move fast. Okay. This is a good example where I'm not killing myself on the details just because, you know, these swords are not an important part of the story, and frankly, they're always moving really fast. You know, so who's going to think about, well, actually, let's go to actual size and go to full screen mode, and boom. I'm going to go, let's go here. So really it'd be then he'd go actually 2 frames ahead, and then he'd go for it. Boom. Yeah, I think that is right. I think that eye should be in there. Okay. And that put us over an hour, so I'm gonna quit. Alright, more later.